So you wanna animate, but it seems too complicated and time-consuming, so you're about to go crazy and explode? It's fine now, because I'm here to give you some tips on how to animate faster and easier. I'm Yupatska and I create animated stories weekly for almost a year. And during this time, I realized some things I wish I knew 5 years ago when I tried animating for the first time. By the way, I'm using Procreate and After Effects, but these tips will be useful for other softwares as well, like Krita, Clip Studio, or Flipperclip. So let's start with tip number 1. Once I started using Procreate, I already knew how to work with layers, and for illustrations it works fine. But when you start animating, each layer you add becomes a new frame. And if you want to animate different parts of your character separately or be able to edit any element without losing the rest, then you must use groups. It may seem confusing in the beginning, but trust me, it makes the whole process much easier. To create a group, simply choose one layer and drag it to another one. Then you'll see the option group. You can duplicate groups if you don't want to redraw everything completely or need to make just slight edits. And actually, here comes my second tip. Usually to animate even slight movement, we redraw everything over and over and over again. But what if I tell you that you actually don't need to do that? When the frames differ just a little, instead of redoing the outline and the coloring all over again, I duplicate the previous frame and change only the outline, then adjust the coloring if needed. It makes animating process much faster. When it comes to complex movements, I suggest copying whole scenes when you edit them. Just make sure that they are looped. For example, hand movements or eyes blinking. If you have quite long scenes, you don't need to animate them fully because these movements usually are kinda repetitive, so it's okay if you just loop them. The number of frames decides how smooth the animation will be and how many drawings you should make just for one sec. Back in the old times, the golden standard was 24 frames per second. The movement is as smooth as butter, but it takes ages to draw. That's why I suggest dividing the number of frames by 2. Choose 12 frames instead of 24. By the way, even big studios like Sony use this method. The Spider-Verse and Puss in Boots 2 often use 12 or 10 frames per second. Personally, I animate on 8 or 10 frame rate as I post weekly and simply don't have time for super smooth movements. For internet frame-by-frame animation, it's pretty fine in my opinion. Compositing is basically setting up the final scene by adding effects, camera movements, zoom in, zoom out, blur, and etc. It may sound as a pretty obvious tip, but I wish I knew about the compositing features in other video editors before, because it would save a lot of time. Because back then I was animating with camera movements manually by rescaling the whole scene. And it still didn't look that good, because the image was losing its quality after rescaling. So there was some extra work redrawing rescaled frames. When I started making my web series, Baby Potato Friends, which you can watch in shorts or on my Instagram and TikTok accounts, I was using CapCut a lot for some animations, but also for compositing. Just by adding keyframes to the scene, I was able to make zoom-ins and outs in a couple of seconds, and this truly felt like magic for me. I also was diving deeper into After Effects and experimented with the 3D camera. Though I still learned how to work with it properly, I tried the blur option as well as camera movements and parallax effect by animating backgrounds and foregrounds separately. But again, even if you don't have After Effects, basic compositing can be done in any video editor like CapCut Edits or even TikTok Studio. I know, for you artists, it can be a bit hard, because we all try to achieve perfection. I face just the same problem myself. But again, strict deadlines make me not only work faster, but also smarter. For instance, reading off unnecessary scenes, which can look nice, but nobody will notice them in the final result. Quite often, I have much more in my animatic, but in the final animation, I can skip a few scenes if they don't really add anything to the storyline and the atmosphere. The same goes to the character design. Try to make it as simple as possible using some basic shapes, and also do not add too many accessories. I know that we all love dressing up our OCs, but it will be really hard to animate because it's hard to remember all the details. And what I recommend is using the limited color palette, because then your characters can be really recognizable and easy to draw and to animate for sure. But still, people can attach to these characters because colors, they have some symbolism, blah, blah, blah. Well, they're just easy to remember. I mean, when I started my web series, these are my OCs by the way, people didn't know their names, so they were just using blue, red and green, and that's it. Still, they got attached. The same goes to the backgrounds. They can add much more to the setting and the atmosphere, but if the focus is on the character, you don't need to draw each flower separately and in detail. Instead, you can use texture brushes, blur the background a bit, or make it pretty sketchy. This way it's even more natural because human eye doesn't capture details on the background as good as on the foreground. The last but not the least, evaluate your current level properly. Really often we see someone's art and we want to do the same, but we lack skills or knowledge. So we will draw one scene over and over because we don't like the result as it's not even nearly what we imagined in our heads. Don't do that. I used to have the same problem, though I was drawing my very first webtoon, The Witch of Hearts, and ended up with having only the prologue done. And I still don't know if I'll finish this story or not, though I would love to. The same goes to animation. You won't get the perfect result yet by redrawing one scene many times. You'll find yourself frustrated, tired, and disappointed instead. Better finish your piece and move on to the next one. If you keep animating, experimenting, and working hard, you'll progress much faster. Then you'll be able to look back at your old animations, compare them to the current ones, and see how much you've done. Doesn't it sound much better than having one unfinished piece which you can't make perfect by any means? Well, this is the end of the video already. Hope it was helpful and fun. Surely these were just 5 tips that I would give beginner animators and my younger self when I only started to animate. And if you are interested, leave a like and a comment and I'll make a part 2. Thanks for watching and bye!